Good evening. Tonight is the 6 o'clock public hearing on the 2024 Reston Association budget. We conduct this public hearing to give the members of the association an opportunity to be heard with regard to a budget which, fingers crossed, we hope to adopt later this evening. Ms. Copeland, do we have anyone who signed up to speak during the public hearing?
We have Robert Marston, who signed up to speak. Mr. Marston, if you're on the call, please raise your hand. I do not see him online.
Oh, if he misses it, he gets a chance to talk and remember comments, and that'll be fine. Who else signed up to speak?
Diane Zukas. And Diane, I'm going to unmute you. And we need your name and address. You can unmute your microphone.
Diane Zukas, 1909 Lakeport Way in Reston.
Ma'am, you have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I wish to address the Board of Directors regarding the discussion on increasing boat mooring fees by as much as 900% from the previously decided 20% increase. Some comments that were made in the 10/26/23 budget meeting were very disturbing to me. One director stated that there was a lack of equitability between pontoon boat owners on the lakes and those that are not fortunate enough to take advantage of this, quote, enhanced benefit. He even stated that we don't need these lakes. And I'd like to say that on the RA website, it clearly states that just because your house or neighborhood might not sit on a lake does not mean you do not have the privileges and responsibilities of a lake neighbor. Facts that were stated by Mr. Farrell, that there are 23,000 RA members and the cost to maintain the 4 Reston lakes is $783,000. If you divide the $783,000 by 23,000 members, it's an annual amount of $34.05 per Reston member. That amount does not sound unequitable when all members can enjoy the 4 beautiful lakes that surround their community. Lake use is available to all members and their families. Pontoon boat ownership does not only apply to lakefront homes. An RA member, regardless of where they reside, can launch an approved vessel onto the lakes for their pleasure. Reston was built on the promise of being a community of neighborhoods or clusters that share in and enjoy the amenities the community has to offer, should they so choose. Not everyone uses the multiple trails around Reston, yet they pay to maintain them. Not everyone uses the pools or the tennis courts, yet they pay to maintain them. The dog parks, the picnic areas, but they pay to maintain them. So I'm asking you to please do not single out lake boat owners as being privileged, as having an enhanced benefit, get to entertain their guests and enjoy lakes. These are some of the comments from the 10/26 meeting. The entire community can enjoy the same should they choose to do so. So those are my comments on that issue, and I'd like you to take those into consideration.
We certainly will, Ms. Cummings. Thank you for your thoughts. Is there anyone else? Have a good evening. And you're welcome to observe the rest of the meeting. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the board's public hearing on the budget? Hearing and seeing none.
We have one person with their hand raised.
Go right ahead.
Sarika. You're unmuted. We need your name and your address for the record.
Sarika Sridhar, 11801 Breton Court, Apartment 2. And I'm here representing the Environmental Advisory Committee and would like to speak to the board about the funds for the environmental director position.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Are you representing? You have 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Environmental Advisory Committee unanimously voted in support of restoring the budget for the Environmental Director position and made a submission to the board earlier in the week highlighting the need for such a position. And I'll be speaking to points raised in that submission. There are numerous environmental issues that we're currently dealing with here in Reston, and the EAC has documented and reported on these to the board over the past few years. But these issues are only going to get worse as a result of climate change. Now, the RA staff are doing an excellent job trying to manage some of these issues, but there's a backlog that needs to be addressed. And the staff just currently do not have the time or the capacity to take on more work. And it's also unfair, for lack of a better word, to expect individual teams to act on some of these issues without a cohesive response across all RA departments. But there's currently no one in that senior leadership team that can work through this backlog, that can provide the guidance that's needed and develop or implement a comprehensive environmental policy across all of RA's departments. And in terms of dealing with climate change, there can't be a piece-by-piece ad hoc sort of response. There needs to be a holistic, overarching approach, which requires direction and engagement at the senior-most level, especially when engaging with Fairfax County and other stakeholders to implement climate action plans. There's a real opportunity here for RA to be a leader in this area by being an organization that tackles climate change and is taking climate change seriously by putting some of these plans into action. But this can't be achieved without somebody in that senior leadership role. And this also has a benefit to RA from a financial perspective. There's currently millions of dollars in grant money and funds available that supports environmental sustainability projects in small communities. And RA could really be driving this, utilizing some of these grants and funds to foster and support innovative solutions here in Reston. And that's a huge benefit in the long run because it actually takes a lot of that financial burden and pressure off of RA to manage the environmental impacts that we're facing, because you're providing residents and businesses with the tools to either mitigate or minimize these impacts, and you're building resilience within the community. But again, all of this needs clear direction, which can only come from a senior leadership role. We saw members speak last week in support of the environmental director position, at the last budget meeting, I can't remember if it was last week. And that clearly shows just how residents feel about the need for such a role. So let this opportunity be seen as an investment into the future well-being of Reston and Reston's residents and its businesses and the environment ultimately, because that's why a lot of people move to Reston, because of the environment. We, the EAC, we request the board to reconsider their position on this matter and restore the funds allocated for the environmental director role so that a suitable candidate can be found immediately. Thank you for the time and for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the board during this public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget? Anyone else? There will be, for those who late arrived, there will be a member comment period during our regular board meeting at 6:30. But if there is no one else who wishes to address the board regarding the 2024-2025 budget, we'll declare the public hearing completed, and we'll reconvene at 6:30. So ordered. Thank you all.